Justin, thank you for hosting us here in St. John's, a truly exceptional place. We have experienced the fantastic hospitality. So thank you very much for that. And we had a very good summit. We had a very good summit, once again, confirming the very strong alignment in our values and in our worldviews. And this is even more important today in a world that is rocked by multiple wars. Of course, we discussed the current situation in the Middle East. Nothing can justify Hamas' despicable terror attack on Israel on the 7th of October and the spiral of violence it triggered. I think we agree on fundamental points. First of all, we very much welcome the humanitarian pause to end the terrible ordeal of hostages held by Hamas and other terrorist groups. And I want to thank those who made it possible. Among many, especially President Biden, but also Israel, Qatar, and Egypt, with their tireless effort. And together we will continue to reach out with as much diplomatic passion as possible to make sure that all hostages are safely returned. The second point is, of course, to use this humanitarian pause to allow life-saving humanitarian aid to reach Gaza and to meet the needs of the civilians in Gaza. Since the announcement of the humanitarian pause, we have worked intensively to really increase the aid into Gaza as part of a humanitarian surge. Over the last month, the European Commission has quadrupled the humanitarian aid to the Palestinian people, now up to 100 million euros. And we have organized an air bridge. We have now the 17th flight into Al Arish in Egypt, round about 730 tons now that have gone to Egypt and then through Rafah border crossing point into Gaza. But of course, as more needs enter Gaza, and because Rafah's capacity is limited, we also have to work on other access points. For example, we're working with Cyprus on setting up a maritime corridor to Gaza. The third point is we must prevent violence from spreading, and therefore a peaceful coexistence is only possible with a two-state solution. We very much agree on that one. The Palestinian people and the Arab neighbors need the reassurance that there will be no forced displacement, but a viable perspective with an independent Palestinian state, Gaza and West Bank reunited and governed by a reformed Palestinian Authority. And to this end, the unacceptable violence by extremists in the West Bank has to stop. Of course, we also discussed the situation in Ukraine. And from day one on in this war, Canada and the European Union have worked closely together. Many thanks for that cooperation. Indeed, today the EU and the member states have provided to Ukraine over 85 billion euros in aid. This includes the 25 billion euros for military equipment. But I first and foremost want to commend Canada, because you have been at Ukraine's side already before Russia's aggression in March 2022. It was your strong engagement of that time, training the Ukrainian troops, that was key to enable Ukrainians to resist the very first wave of this senseless aggression. Of course, today, both the European Union and Canada continue to train Ukrainian armed forces together. Looking at us, the European Union, we have now 30,000 troops already trained, so we are on track to meet our target of 40,000 we wanted to reach this year still. It is vital that the European Union and Canada, along with other partners, maintain the strong backing for Ukraine. Ukraine needs more military assistance and predictable and reliable economic support. That is why we have proposed a 50 billion euro financial support package for Ukraine for the next 4 years. This will go into the G7 donors platform that is associated with the reforms that have to be done. And here I also want to thank you, Justin, that you send now your expert to our G7 donor platform. It's very important to have the personnel, so thank you for the liaison officer that you sent. And we continue to maintain pressure on Russia with effective sanctions and close coordination with other G7 partners. And in this context, the European Commission will soon propose how to use revenues that are generated from the management of the immobilized Russian assets, because the perpetrator must be held accountable. Now, we have a very strong bilateral relationship too, and I want to mention of the many topics that we have discussed four. The first is indeed innovation. I am delighted that we were able today to announce that our flagship program, Horizon Europe, is joined by Canada. This means that Canada will participate on equal terms with EU countries. This is great news. Horizon Europe invests 100 billion euros over 7 years in cutting-edge research. It's a fantastic opportunity to pool our best minds and the best talents on both sides of the Atlantic. And jointly we will work on the next generation of all these exciting new clean technologies, but also biotech, digital projects, you name it. I think the numbers, the figures are telling that you are one of our most trusted partners in Horizon. If you look at the old program that went from 2014 to 2020, we called it Horizon 2020, Canada was ranking third among the, at that time, non-associated countries, right after the United States and China, with over 500 projects and over 400 grants agreement. Now, if you look at the new program, which you are joining now, you have been already working in this program intensively, because Canada has already gotten over 100 grant agreements. Now, this association of today will give it a big boost, and I'm very much looking forward to that. Second point is trade. In these difficult years, with the COVID pandemic and Russia's war in Ukraine, CETA has helped us enormously to resist the pressure. And in those 6 years now, it has delivered. Our trade in goods has grown by 66%. That's huge. The trade actually in services has also grown by 11%. So this results in 118 billion euros traded in goods and services last year. That's quite a success. We can achieve even more by working together, and here I also want to shed a light on the critical raw materials. Working together on critical raw materials strengthens our supply chains in our strategic industries. These are the digital and the clean industries. And it strengthens, of course, the European independence from single supplier, where we have an overdependence. So I want to extend a warm invitation to Canada to join our Critical Raw Materials Club, which we will launch at COP28. Canada is indeed in a pole position what critical raw materials are concerned. You are today the country, the only country in the Western Hemisphere with all the raw materials required for a lithium battery. You have it all. Canada exports 90% of its mineral products, and the European Union is Canada's second largest export market. So I would say this is a perfect match. Let's work on that one. Third point is the Green Alliance that we launched today. It's about cooperation on clean energy and green technology. Canada is very rich with clean energy capabilities. For example, the wind power supply to the European Union that you're giving to us. This helps us a lot to reach our net zero goal. And we have a few points that we've discussed today. The first one is that the European Union will now formally join the Global Carbon Pricing Challenge launched by Canada. So we will work together on also developing carbon markets and looking at standards for carbon credits. Our mutual aim is to increase innovation and to decrease emissions. And the second element is where I'm very glad about that we want to boost transatlantic hydrogen trade. We need to develop this strategic industry, the green hydrogen, on both sides of the Atlantic. And therefore, today we're launching this joint green hydrogen roadmap to develop the market on both sides, so the supply and the demand, which is very important for the European Union and also for our partner Canada. The fourth and last point I want to mention is the digital transition. Indeed, also today we launched the digital partnership that helps us to strengthen, for example, the semiconductor supply chain, increase our cooperation in artificial intelligence. A lot has been said on that one. And to cooperate on cyber threats. Here, the strategic discussion and exchange of knowledge that we have between Canada and the European Union is of utmost importance. And in the same spirit, we have just reached a passenger name record agreement. This is very good news. Many thanks for that. It will make us more efficient in the fight against crime and terrorism, in full respect of the fundamental rights of privacy and of data protection, because, as you said, we share the same vision, that innovation should be at the service of people and be in line with our democratic values. Voilà, cher Justin, le résumé de nos discussions denses, mais avant tout animées par l'unique amitié qui lie le Canada et l'Europe et qui nous lie personnellement. Merci beaucoup.
Merci Ursula.